Hey, Laura J. here today on November 5th, 2025, for the Weaving Intentional Interwebs podcast episode based on the program happening Wednesdays from 7 to 9 Eastern. PM, not AM. Though, if I didn't have an amazing yoga class to go to in the morning, it might well be a good time to do it as well because we do have two sides of a globe to account for or to be mindful of. Not accounted for, though, the globe itself is the construct that humanity and the world constructs overlap with to create identity entrapments we don't notice until we do. So, this global notion of an international trust system ties into the rabbinic and Noahidic laws and the false covenants that have been drawing good hearted men and women into the public to cause harm to others based on orders that were issued by souverains that place us under the true queen, souveraine, reine being French, ver being right, sous being under. And this is where we get to the sur-sous dans, devant derrière, devant derrière, devant derrière, and aqua being the other ways we are in relation to something that is the identity we then allow ourselves to be defined by if we don't know how to ward off that reality or possibility, which is precisely what I spoke to on the call that just wrapped up shortly ago. And now you will have an opportunity to see some of, though not all of, because I want to make it more fun for people to actually come. And that means not giving those who didn't come access to all of it. So I'm going to do some editing. I can do video editing. It's one of the things that I've learned how to do over the last decade plus while I've been making videos for my YouTube channel, as well as other platforms where I used to share information before then, because 2020, 2011 was really when my identity online started to grow in significance and importance to me. I will speak more into some of these pieces of my story as we get further into the empowered storytelling method, which is what we're going to be digging into next week, and also the special practice framework too. So both of those concepts are significant and what I wish to share with you in a future program that we come together for live. And then you can see some of it replayed after when I post the edited version of what just now finished before, or it will go after, in fact, what you are seeing now. So thank you very much for your comments, your likes, your sharing this information. It's posted to my Substack group because this is the area where I would like for us to have conversation about this information and how we really streamline it so that it's not just conversational, but it actually is a way that we can put our information together so that we can unite and refine and stop fighting by actually uniting and finding common ground where before we only saw how someone could go down if we knew how to hit him in the right spot. And I say, let's not. And don't even say we did, because being truthful and honest and loving and kind and caring is really the culture that I would like to be part of, which is why I would like to endorse that kind of culture. And the best way that I can do that is by creating spaces and opportunities where we can demonstrate the culture of care that we are co-creating together. So that's what this expression of perspectives that just occurred is going to be for me, to you. And then from there, where do we go? Well, to the next one. But for now, start where we are. Here you go. All right. I
Here
was
we
just
go.
actually pulling the cards that I flipped out. And so I just thought I would frame it from a greater than us who are presently presence perspective. And so the power has intuition backing it with a change of mind for how you'll find that knowledge and sexuality together were actually how the law of gender and gestation, as one of the seven Hermetic principles, actually wove together to say that the transmutation of sexual energy is the sex of belief systems y'all follow and think is knowledge, for it is the ledge you know, because it's as far as someone else said you could go in order for them to maintain their power and our intuition being the tuition our soul paid ahead of time to guide us through this life, with then the violet flame that I'm not sure how I feel about it because of the corruption of most things that are truly powerful within this realm, and how within the universal church triumphant and Shambhala temple of light that I learned about the quote unquote teachings of the ascended masters. Hey, John, awesome to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much for jumping on. I was actually talking about the violet flame in the moment that you joined us, which is significant because I was also talking about the deception that I personally experienced when joining up with the teachings of Elizabeth Clare Prophet and Mark Prophet, who were in a union together, and she was his student until then became his lover and Mrs., who then also channeled for the I Am movement, which is very significant because I've been talking about Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp's house and the Maison d'Etre and how we become debtors within this house that has a peak on the roof where then we are duped into choosing side one or two to slide down to either being a trustee in an agent's position as a professional serving the public and making the one pay who is deemed a legal person, statutory person, substitute person, exchequer, executor, all of those different statuses being the way that we are relegated to the third person, which is the other side of the trustee and the bottom of the interlocking trust system that is like the house on La Maison d'Etre. As Michael joins the call, welcome. It's great to have you with us tonight. How are you doing?
Sorry, I'm good, thanks. Good to be here. I'm gonna have to leave a bit early, but glad to be here.
Not a problem, Michael. It's so good to hear your voice. I appreciate knowing each of you, and I absolutely love the fact that even if your video is off, I know who you are that is on here with us. And that really matters when we're inviting people to our table. And something that I had overlooked for a long time until I finally realized that I really need to vet my groups more to know who is in the meeting room with me so that then it's not just me, it's us, because now I know you more than just the name that's familiar or the
Yo,
voice that I never hear, you know?
yo.
Woo! John, you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry.
Not a problem. Sounds like you're having fun. But these are the kind of things, having a relationship with everyone that is in here means that when there is a disruption that comes up, we know that it is not intentional per se, because we know the heart of those that we can see, and it matters. B, because we have been creating debts between one another using a double entry booking trust system. Those are the debts that are capitalized and coined by those who trade in what was real for what is unreal. And I'm going to move the screen down so I'm looking at it directly instead of up on a top screen where then I'm not looking at you who are here with me, because now instead I'm looking up to where I've moved you to as a secondary screen so that I can see who's trying to come in, or if there's a chat or any of the details that you've got to manage when moderating a live group experience, because that's what it is. And if we don't know the people in the experience that we're having, then we don't feel as safe. So, as the one who is calling the meeting, it is my responsibility to make sure that the room is safe for those who come because they want to actively learn something that has never been shared before, because I've never shared what I'm about to. It is the fight between the fearful and the faithful that became so great for me, in me, when I was going through my expanded state of awareness I didn't handle well, as to why I called the police to report there is a crime that is taking place and they're in on it, but there must be some good ones, and I'm here to help bring peace to this world, to bring right order to how the world is ordered, with not just prayers, but also love backing action, which is what I believe we're being called to actually lead with, as the change of mind and innocence surfacing underneath of that, because that's what the inner sense truly is. So, having started this call offering to have a card read for Maria when she jumped in, Peter, I would have offered you one as well, but it felt like it was more about the collective read that was coming place or coming forward. And so that's why I started recording it. And then as others were able to join in, then we're better able to really understand how we are microcosmic expressions of the macro. It's like within the holographic image, every pixel has an image of the whole within the smaller piece. And I don't understand how it works, but it's absolutely magical when we see that we just need to have confidence in our own magic. And we have an opportunity to create a new relationship with magic, which is then when I say, what is magic to you? Because the inner sense, the innocence of a child is one who understands our creative capacity as creators, that don't need the title of creator in order to create. We just create. We just make art and crafts without realizing we are fine tuning and honing our craft when we are practicing crafts. Art and crafts was educational. It was not just theory, it was the application of it, which was the difference between noxus and praxis, knowledge and praxis, knowledge and practice. That was Sydney, I believe it was, that I got to study in a critical theory course I got to take at McMaster University back in 2009 that was really informative to me because it introduced me to Plato, Aristotle, Sydney, Locke, Nietzsche. I got introduced to each of these theories by a man who was passionate about them, Dr. David Clark. He was exceptional. He was also teaching the sexuality course that I took at the same time that totally made no sense to me, because that was before the 732 different genders that you can choose from a list just to get yourself so confused. And how do I possibly fit? Well, let me ask you, why would you possibly want to abandon all of this in order to say that you are just what is associated with that little box that you can check as a one-dimensional identity that invites entities in with the one-dimensional thinking of that is what I am at the expense of all of this. Well, I want you to now understand how that relates to taking on statuses, to taking on titles, personages, coming under the hood of things. Just this evening, in a smaller group than the Peaceful Inner Warriors United Assembly group on Telegram, in a conscious collaborators group, I can't think of the specific name in this moment, that Peter and I are both part of. And you also, who have come, are welcome to join this smaller, more intimate networking space where we truly are working to fine tune our crafts, hone what is ours, speak from experience that we have lived instead of theories that we have come across. See how we have engaged with the materials that show up within our material world. And this is where we start getting back to that roof that I was speaking to with Dr. and Mrs. Vander Tramp's house of being, la maison d'être, which is the auxiliary verbiage used with the passé composé, where two verbs are put into the same sentence so that instead of saying, I am going, now it's implied you are going, as if you are the thing that is going. But that's kind of obvious. Now that if I say, I am born, I am coming back, I am these things now, is what the implication is, which makes sense. I'm just describing a verb. Well, this is why we need to understand the difference between verbs and nouns, and why grammar is close to the grimoire that needs to be your spell book, your special practice. The special practice that calls you back home to your heart center where you can feel the resonance of truth. You feel it in your heart, you rationalize, your mind will try to rationalize what information is showing up based on your ration of lies you've bought into as the belief systems you have adopted into the house of you. You are a house, a power fucking house, my friends, each of you. You are a powerhouse who has given your power to other houses that have overlain themselves on top of your sense of identity through this I am movement. Not just in the teachings of the quote unquote ascended masters that use us as hosts for its gnosis, because every ghost needs a host for its gnosis in order for that ghost to scare anyone. We are the ones who are the powerhouse that get overlain by other houses because we are powerful when we know how to wield our pen. We do it with our hand, which is why the crown has hands. Hands of the crown, pages of the crown that deliver messages. So then we write our notices on the page because of what we noticed and then how we notify others of what we noticed. I'm going fast because you can go back. You can listen to the replay of this, for it is an activation of remembrance within the cells of you to know that I am is not a complete sentence, as is. I am must be attached to something in order to make it other than just a notion. We have to have emotion, which is why our emotions are the energies in motion that must move us, must move our hearts, and cause us to trust ourselves more than others. And also recognizing it is okay and safe to trust others if we know how to trust ourselves and then will not cast the judgments that we put onto others when we don't trust ourselves. Trust is fundamental, which is why the double entry booking trust system is based on trust. And within the maison d'être, at the peak of the interlocking trust system, you have the propuria persona of your public image. your public face. This is your properia persona. That's your proper face as the man or woman of capacity representing yourself as something other than you are when you step into the public. And stop being what you were before then you were consumed by that which you got attached to. This is the I am of Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp's verbiage, which I could actually show you that would help probably give a better description of what I'm actually talking about. And of course, I don't have the one that I'm looking for up. But what I do have up, it's coming. This is on my Substack, Laura J. and the Peaceful Inner Warriors United. What I decided I was going to do is actually create an overview of what we talk about in these sessions. But what I'm going to do is make these Wednesday night sessions now when I record the content for my podcast, Weaving Intentional Inner Webs, and we tell the real story of Rome in the podcast time. But then I want there to be benefits and perks to those who show up live because it matters. We want to be rewarded. We want to be seen. We don't want to come and be preached to unless we do, which is okay too. But it is important to be able to go deeper with us who come here. This is 5 of us here. I am one speaking. But there are 5 of us giving energy to what is being spoke. Engaged with each of our inner compass to feel the resonance of what is being spoke and felt, and then where we're going to go from there. So it's important for more of us than just the speaker to have an opportunity to be recognized for the contribution that is occurring when the one who is speaking and offering a message is supported by the energies of those who come, which is why knowing who's in the room and that there won't be distractions or attempted subversions of attention or redirections of intention or focus within a group during poignant times like what happened on the Freedom Lovers Canada call. I was delivering High Rose Prism for the first time, the concept that I created and coined, and then a man came in rubbing himself on video, and it was so shocking and disturbing that Rena tried to kick him out and accidentally kicked me out and then had to end the meeting because I couldn't get back in. It was a subversion because the information that I was bringing forward was so powerful. What we're learning is so powerful, and I don't say it because I'm offering it. I say it because I know I'm powerful. And I know that the houses that I invest my energy into receive a lot of energy because I give good energy intentionally. I don't give to take, I give to give. I give to uplift. I give to do my best to help support. And I say that because I know myself. And because I know myself, I know the value of my investment. And yet I have not been allowing myself to receive in equal measure because I want to make it even and accessible. And I want more people to have access to this, even if they don't understand the value of it yet. I've needed to or felt compelled to share this information because it matters. It's powerful. It came to me and then through me. It does not belong to me. It is claimed by me and my hand because if I don't, who will? But certainly you can use it. If you can understand it and actually see how it's relevant and relates to other things too. So this overview has questions and statements that I want to get into with the podcast episode that I would like to record for maybe I don't know how long it will take to get through these questions. But what I've included here in this part is what is the fourth turning and where do the artists fit in? Because so much of my effort and so much of what I'm offering, including the ability to say, I can create art without needing to take on the title of artist, to define me only by my artistry, or as an empowerment coach or an author. Each of these titles are things that I have aspired to, I have chose to put my energy into in order to be able to define me. And yet, to allow those definitions of me to be how the deaf Phoenicians are able to draw me into admiralty, maritime, warring waters of territorial, commercial contract laws in contracted states that I wish not enter myself into, not to my benefit, even though I really do like what those things represent. I love artists. I'm in love with an artist. I am artistic. But to say that I am artistic is different from saying I am an artist. I am wholly defined by being an artist when I am an artist. Whereas when I am a creator of art, sometimes, but I also love doing yoga and writing, and I love connecting with people, and I love finding where people are passionate or in need and where they have skills, and then seeing how I might be able to make a connection for them and say, hey, you should really connect with so and so who I know is connected to this area of need, desire, or whatever it is that I notice, there may be a resonant connection that, hey, the least I can do is say, hey, Jane, meet Sally, and vice versa. You know what I mean? That is a skill that I didn't realize not everyone possesses as well, a passion for the way that I do, which is why in this, I do actually break down what the meaning of Peaceful Inner Warriors United is, which I do in my first book, which I figured I'd make a little plug for as well, and say that if you and your loved ones want to actually read my first book, Fully Committed, The Sacred Sojourn of Now, for the holidays, and actually go through it together so that we have a common piece of information to be able to look at, like the high rise of emotional awareness that says, hey, there's 22 different levels within this high rise of emotions, and every floor represents a level of emotion that has a lot of related memories and ideas and experiences that we've saved on that floor that all show up to be processed when we're on that floor. And all of those parts of us that got stuck in not now moments in the past, when we left them behind, when we abandoned them to fit into that little box that we checked to say, oh, that's all I am. Nope, forget about all the rest of me. Just take that little piece of me. Well, we feel like we can afford that little piece of me. And so we give these little pieces of me to all of these places. But what happens when a computer gets fragmented? Well, the computer slows down. And that's exactly what happens when we don't figure out how to come together in communities of care and conscious connection, to know who one another are, to know why we're here together, and to know why the story even matters in the first place. And hopefully it's because we care about one another. We care about being connected, and that is how we are called home to ourselves and ourselves in a way that we weren't before it felt safe, because we knew we were here with someone else who cared. Care goes a long way, and it's the foundation of the culture that I believe that we are being called to co-create together. And so I just want to note that what the Peaceful Inner Warriors United community is about is passion, enthusiasm, authenticity, clarity, encouragement, find your tribe, understand what's yours and what's being put onto you that isn't yours and you don't need to any longer. To love what arises because all of it is happening in the moment, because it is only in the now we can process everything that happened that we didn't deal with before. Boom, the big eruption over something little in the moment. You're just resolving 50, 60, 20 years worth of shit that you didn't know how to deal with in the past. So it got stuck in that moment and now it shows up and feels really cold. I don't know whether you've had that experience in your body, but when stuck, stagnant, isolated, frozen parts of us show back up, oftentimes my body literally gets cold. I am very uncomfortable because a part of me I didn't want, I didn't understand, I didn't like, I left out in the cold for good reason. It was supposed to die out there and then it suddenly comes back to me. It's cold inside of me because that part of me was cold and now is coming back to be reintegrated and warmed up. And it happens in our heart when we invite them to come into the hearth of our heart center. So that's what we get when we let go of our attachment to those not now moments and we show up fully present, present in the now in order to do what we came here to, which is be ourselves in a way that we never thought we could before. Now we can. The story of Cain and Abel. Well, can ya? And are you able? That's at the top of Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp's house. A man of capacity, a man who is capable, or woman, of caring for their own household, caring for the ones in their life. Are we able to actually care for others enough to say that within the double entry booking trust system, you have real property and you have unreal property. And those are like the two sides of the roof within Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp's house. One side leads you into being a trustee or an agent. The ceste que trust, which is the one who can be trusted to care for the things that the ceste que vie, which is the one who lives, left behind when they went missing or were declared dead after 7 years of not being accounted for, counted within a ledger where the man didn't know he needed to make a claim, and so he didn't until then one day he does. And the Vatican, or the holders of the Holy See that we didn't see, not see in the plan, when we didn't see the Holy See as the overlay on top of we, you and me, well, then that was when we were then operating under multiple jurisdictions simultaneously, international law being the one that has drawn us further into Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp's house through either side of this double entry booking trust system, which is actually like 4 quadrants on a page, recognizing the page is the one that delivers the messages within the tarot energetically. And then the page is also the one that we write on as papals, papal, actually stemming from the papacy of the Pope's territory and realm. They're bringing in ecclesiastical law, which is church law, secularism being the religion of business. Those both then being the canons and ecclesiastical laws of warring waters that also have occupied air, which is why we are deemed heirs who didn't notice the errors on the page that then we're implied to be if we're offering a message, you see. So that page that has the letters on it that we have notified others of what we have noticed with our eyes, we must then also notify them in writing, because we, as responsible household managers of our own lives and the powerhouses that we are, must know how to actually hold the first person position within our story, to be the I, me, my, us, we, ours. Those pronouns are inclusive of me and others I wish to see as us, which is all of us, regardless of whether one believes or one doesn't. We are the ones who are here in the field of consciousness that has been divided through conscience and the con of science with a dollar sign through the S. We got three Peters in here right now, which is funny because I think two of them are the same guy. And indeed, he was. There we are. Awesome to see you there, Peter. It's also funny. Okay.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right. Pretty good. You? Nice to see you.
You as well. Thank you. I think it's really funny because Peter, the fact that three came in and we are talking about the double entry booking trust system, and within the Holy See, the Saint Basilica of Peter is in Vatican City because that is said to be the stone of the church or the papacy, the Pope's office. Julius Caesar claimed the Pontifex Maximus position when he established the Republic. After Rome transitioned from a republic, he was then killed for declaring himself dictator for life, killed by the Senate, and then his adopted great nephew, or just nephew without the great, then became the one who took over and established the Roman Empire. And we didn't understand that because in his storybooks that we've grown up on, we were told there were 500 years between those men. So how could that have been possible? Well, did you know actually when Justinian established the empire, he actually did so based on the Institutes of Gaius? Did you know about the Institutes of Gaius being written by some jurist named Gaius? Well, did you also make the connection that Gaius Julius Caesar is who we refer to commonly as Julius Caesar? So the Institutes of Gaius were actually written by Justinian's uncle. And he was the one that groomed Justinian for the role and taught him how to claim territory and to clump many things under one roof. So that a noun then became how we defined ourselves within La Maison d'Être, where we are debtors to that which we owe the grace of getting a title. Why, thank you, sir.
Very well put. Very well put, Laura.
Thank you, Peter. I am so grateful to get to tell this tale and also have each of you with me right now in this moment.
And I personally appreciate everything you're doing, Laura. I really do. It's
Thank you.
far beyond my capability. So I love what you're teaching.
Thank you. Well, it's quite the tale. And truly, this has been a 3-year nearly quest, specifically after the Justinian deception, which came to me as an intuitive drop November 22nd, November 2022. November 22nd, 2022. Lots of twos, which is the duality of dueling ideologies. This actually stemming back to the manor role or the court role and the family tree of the genealogy that we don't put into our manor role because we didn't see man or role is the question being asked. When you get clumped into being a noun as the title, personage, status, the way that you are now defined because I am that, I am. Well, if you're that, what is this? Boom. Mic drop. Military, industrial complex. It's complex indeed. The deed is the certificate or trust instrument that's issued when we cash in our debts to become debits because we gave them to an intercessor or interceder who got involved when they had no business to do so until they got a letter of marque or letter of commission issued by the souverain that brought us under true queen. Do you see how we've been duped to become that when this is all we are? In truth, we're more than what can be seen with our eyes. But knowing how to dot our I's and cross our T's, how we don't get capitalized on. Woo! Oh, how fun is that? Usually I do this on my own. You all were like, you did, that was just, you were tracking it, felt. Everybody's like, is she gonna keep going? What's it like to be lulled by truth in the way that I lay it down, which I don't say in order to flatter myself, though it may sound conceited to say so. But I think there's a big difference between conceit and confidence. I am confident that what I am saying is the best truth that I have come to, and I have done my very best to not mislead others, to go over traps they say are solid when I'm saying there is air underneath of that stage. It is only a performance, and that means whoever's ship it is that brandishes their flag that carries the logos of the logic that the Greeks actually referred to as what we would then rationalize our findings based off of because of the ration of lies that we adopted when we bought into a false genealogy. So this then goes back into Noahidic law and rabbinic law and the false covenants that draw us into the public and out of the present, the present moment. Noahidic laws actually are where we have all been drawn into the concept of humanity, where we are then tied to the hues of man instead of the whole of us. We must abandon something in order to fit, to conform our substance into the forms that then tell us what we are as new norms, that we check the box of to abandon all of this for the sake of that. And then the laws of salvage that pirates operate based on the premise of then become what the privateers use in order to keep us confused and identifying with nouns instead of verbs, which goes back to la maison d'être. One driver, for instance, that status means that's all you do? You're only a driver? That's all that you do with your life? You drive? Do you do anything other than drive? Well, not when I'm driving, right? But when you're driving, did you know it's for commercial purposes only, in truth? That if you are not conducting commerce, then you shouldn't be bound to rules that only apply to those who are part of the crew of a captain's ship that must offer a chartered experience to passengers who pay for that trip. Because they're the ones who must actually pay what is due to the crew and captain for doing the job, which was to rob us of our presence in order to get confused and go down rabbit holes that would keep us chasing information when it is us in formation that is truly required at this time. Coming here together, the six of us, the power of six, this is where we mix what is shared and then what is received, what is spoke, what is wrote, what is channeled, what is felt, where we see that each of us are the grounding rods. We are being activated. This is being put into the field of collective consciousness. We six ground at each of our points of existence where our spark is. The Antikarana is said to be the web of light that tracks the map of this place, which I saw when I had an expanded state of awareness and like the real being whatever this place is, and then this huge white light up in our corner of the map of this place so far as what we've come to believe North America would be. And then tuning in, I see or sense the controllers of this place freaking out and say, holy shit, who just woke up? And then I said, it is me. I'm here. Fuck off. This game is done. Like, no, this is not how we do this. We don't kill more people in order to perpetuate wars that keep us fighting for territory claimed through dominion that is just domination with a couple letters taken out, the at sign, in fact, being what was removed, to make us doubt who we are, what we are, all we are, the crash downstairs, or just the clatter of someone working in the kitchen, for that is what we are doing too. And I wanted to like bring in some like fun. And then the word Jews came into my mind, and it feels inappropriate to even reference in a joking way without the context to say that Jews have got a bad rap because they've been getting confused with the court Jews, who in fact were the banker Jews that others previously have tried to remove because people were getting confused by the sex of BS or belief systems that were bringing us into nation states. Asian being when form is given to something that wasn't before it was. So if we think about Asian as the formation of a nation state, then we see the state of mind or the state of being that we perceive is now fixed, which is why auxiliary verbiage wants to put us into fixed states, which is what contracts are. Contracted state, fixed state, solid, apparently. Well, a pair we rent, the lie of, apparently, apparent lie. Apparent lie, we are what we buy in a consumerist type of culture. Cult you are, in fact, is what culture is. Did you see it? Now you do. And that's what song is that? What's the tune?
Very nice.
Thank you. But what is that tune?
Bingo. Bingo.
Bingo. Bingo was his name, Bo. That's fun. Bingo, Michael. Yes, precisely. And Michael Seekers was the man that introduced me to the Shambhala Temple of Light and the teachings of Elizabeth Clare Prophet and Mark Clare Prophet. And he was vested in those teachings for 35, 40 years and still is, founded a whole Shambhala Temple of Light in order to share and disseminate those teachings. Totally fixed in his investment into that ideology. Ology being the study of the thing it is connected to, therefore the ideology being the idea. I say Michael was and is at present fixed to the mystery school of. And when you become a teacher, or when you become a keeper of the flame within that order, which is referred to as a mystery school, it's significant. And I reference it because of the pattern of characters that will replay in our realms. So when Michael shows up as I'm speaking to what I got interested in because of another man named Michael, it's significant, just as I recently met another character that was the replacement character for one I issued forgiveness to and severed ties to complete that relational dynamic. So now a different version of that name must come into my realm in order to help me get the lesson that teacher came to give me, just in a different package, because first comes the feather, and then comes the wool, and then the sandpaper, and then the 2x4, and then the bus. And each of these universal teachers come with a harder hit if we don't get the lesson the first, second, third, fourth time. It's harder to survive each of these tries if we don't know how to do it. So I appreciate you guys very, very much for hanging in as I riffed, but also hopefully have tied some pieces together for you in significant ways. I did want to speak to the Noahidic and rabbinic laws and the false covenants that actually reflect what is referred to as the tabernacle, that was the innermost tent that a king would use at the center of his traveling caravan to keep it most protected and private. And that would be where his meetings and other things would take place while traveling. And it's significant because that's said to be where the Ark of the Covenant was held. But what I want you to recognize is that the Ark of the Covenant actually represents and reflects the arcana. The arcana characters, minor and major, are used within the tarot to reflect day-to-day issues versus the more serious spiritual development and the progression between the 22 cards that make up the major arcana, where you start as the Fool and then in the end the World is the final card. Well, what I would like for you to understand is that the concept of humanity and the concept of the world itself and how that connects to international law is part of why I say that international law has now become like another layer over top of the land, air, water that we have been aware of. That has all been operating under the papal tiara that the Pope wears, that stemmed from Julius Caesar's claim of the triumvirate. And the triumvirate actually now represents the 3 different seats that the papal tiara gives the man holding that position access to, the ability to don it, which I believe within the legal system, the judge changes hat 3 times as well, likely to circulate between the jurisdictions as well, so far as I can tell. But I'm not so versed in the theater of court because I have not gotten myself onto a king's council before, because I did not wish to fruct others for the sake of profits that came at the cost of my soul, for the sake of material gain, which is the warning that we must all heed as we are faced with issuing deeds and doing deeds between one another. For indeed, these deeds are the deeds that we must beware of, those being 3 different deeds that indeed I was speaking to. And doing so because it is vital for us to recognize that a deed that is given as a trust instrument, that has been coined and capitalized and certified by eyes that have been specialized to the lies of the court, are able to notarize the note to say that what was real is now real because it has been caricaturized by one of the characters within the courts. And that is said to make it legitimate, which legate indeed it does, because you no longer have legs to stand on if you believed that Bugs Bunny would be able to make your testimony more real than it was when you gave it firsthand. Firsthand, secondhand, third hand. If you allow yourself to be displaced from the first to the third, you will have a hand of the corpse, speaking, orating, writing, dictating for you, and dictating what you can do, because you don't know that you is actually a second person pronoun reference. You, yourself, yours, those are when you is the second person that I am pointing to directly, because whether it is you who is here with me that I am pointing to rudely, I apologize. But there's three pointing back at me, or whether it is through the screen and those who will review this in retrospect after we get off, and then I edit parts and then post, that is still second person, for I am still the one in command of the story. Co-manning the story, you don't really have control unless you tell me what you need, so then I can bring it into the story that I'm telling. Not because I'm trying to wield the wand, but because I am. So what else am I going to do? Wait and ask? Or just do until directed? Well, isn't that what's happening within the legal system? Do until directed. I'm going to take command and co-man your ship until you actually declare yourself living and not dead and lost at sea under the Sesta V Trust Act that allows a trustee to speak for me, who now is displaced into a legal person, statutory person, substitute person, exchequer, executor position that is able to be spoke for and spoken for by proxy. Proxy being the one who's approximately able to speak for the one that can't speak for themselves. Big. This is all huge concepts. This was not where I fully understood we would be going this evening, but I'm grateful that we did. And it's been an hour and 9 minutes of me being on this call. So far as what I was looking at on my screen, your time will have been different. And that's the thing about the law and the maxim of the appearance of order and who comes first has first right. The lineage of heirs is the error that we have been falling prey to, indeed. So instead of going further and more and feeding into the more culture of perceived value being in quantity, I want to take us back to Kairos, which Kairos and Chronos is actually said to be the hourglass of what was private and quality time, and then Chronos being what is public and quantity time. So what is measurable versus what is felt. If we get back to Kairos, we see the I care in I Kairos. Cairos, Kairos. There's an I Kairos in that. I care. And that's how we rose. When someone looks after us, when we are suffering, when we are down and out, when we feel like we can't get up again, when someone else actually comes by us to help lift our spirits, when our spirit has been depleted, deprived, or drained, when we come together to do things like what we are doing tonight, even though it may not necessarily seem as significant as what it is, I believe there is incredible power to the proximity that we have shared this evening. And I thank each of you for showing up, not by proxy, but to be in proximity to me, who is sharing what I am, for you to be able to discern what it means to you, for you, and what you can do with it. I've been doing my very best to figure out how to convey these messages and these teachings that is digestible, relatable, ethical, altruistic, loving. How do we convey this information without trying to blame anyone? That's how we step out of the victim triangle, which is the same triad that is on the house of La Maison d'Etre. Just instead of it being the executor, the trustee, and the legal person or debtor, instead we have the victim at the bottom looking up at a rescuer to save them from a persecutor they can't get away from. Well, the persecutor then becomes the prosecutor in the legal fiction, and then they just change how that arrangement was laid out if it didn't fit, if something needed to be shifted or flipped, then no problem. That is the inversion of what is inherently good, which is us. And then we are tainted when we trust bad sources of information, of advice, of weak moments in our own selves where we let the temptation to get ahead or to survive, if we've been really struggling, to be at the expense of another. Well, we muddy the waters when we do. And when we do, if we don't clean it up, what if we have to come back in order to do it again? Because that's what we came here to do. We are individuated expressions of the all that created all of us, no exceptions. Belief systems all fall under the same all that created all of those belief systems. So all of us are created by the same source that created all of life. And then we created things, which is what the res publica of the republic, drawing us into the public again and again through our titles, statuses, personages, identities that bring in entities that feed off of the one-dimensional box that we check to say this is what I am, when in fact we abandon all of that in order to fit this into that box. And then the this and the that, and then the what? Where are we? Well, Whoville. We're in Whoville when we're in Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp's house. Because who is Whoville? Well, who's who? And that's what we want to know. That's why I ask, when you show up for these sessions now, I want to know who's in the room with us. I want to get to know the people that we are sharing this flow with, because it's fun. And if we can come together and actually enjoy the sharing of these experiences together, so that it's not only one laughing or speaking. Michael, it was such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you. We're going to be wrapping this up. In terms of the sharing part of what I have delivered so far, and I'd like to know if we could have a private conversation that will keep recording unless there is a request specifically not to have something recorded or have it blotched out so that it is not part of anything that is released. But there is great value in what each of you have to contribute as well. So to take it off because it feels more comfortable to not have something recording, it takes away from the potential capture for those that would review it, and yet they're not the ones who are in it with us right now. They could be, they could have been, they could have chose, but they didn't. So that said, my desire has always been to keep the recording going so that we can even listen back to a part maybe that we need to hear again. But it not be something that necessarily makes it onto a YouTube channel, because that is not the purpose of what these groups are about. So finding that balance between having the recording going and then knowing that it's not going to be shown beyond us who are here to be able to speak to what is discussed is an aspect of community development that is really what I would like for these sessions to become and to be turned into. Like, this becomes a space where we can connect, we can share where we're at, we can share what we need. And we also get to grow together and go over some of this really crucial information that needs to be conveyed in a way that is digestible, which means that maybe I am not the one that needs to speak all of that which I spoke. If another is then able to take it and break it down in a way that I can't, and then somebody is able to get from you what I couldn't do because of my closeness to what I've been questing after. I think this is how it happens. Maria, I noticed that you had unmuted yourself.